And I think we're going. We are rolling. All right. So welcome to today's natural healing study group. I'm Carrie, and that's my husband Bobby or Robert. And we want to share with you our over 30 years of natural healing experiences, protocol. We've had a difficult, I would say difficult patient practice for most of that time. And by difficult, I don't mean difficult people, although some of them can be. But we have a knack for fine-tooth combing over things for people. So we invariably end up seeing people who haven't gotten results or answers or better from conventional means, allopathic means, and people in the natural realm. So many people, what I find, want to get to the very top and give you a diagnosis or your label. And I think that's one of the things that we reject. You know, we reject those labels. Not that you can't have symptoms, or not that you can't be given a name of something. Sorry, I'm admitting people. But what I was just saying, people just came in about labels. I really don't like when people have labels with something. I really much prefer people just get into symptoms. Here, let me gotta mute you. I say, hold on. Hey, Beth, we're gonna take. Let's see, we get the video part. There we go. We're still there. Okay. Yeah, labels. So people tend to become their label. You know, you have this, you are that condition, you have this disease, this something. Not that you can't name something to talk about or to discuss it, but people tend to own it. And I like to shake people off of that reality pretty quick, because it starts to solidify, and then you become a victim on that level, rather than seeing that illness or that situation or that condition is something that you're moving through.
Not a claim to fame to hang on to.
Right.
To join a support group over.
Speak a little bit louder. You're a little bit, I can hear you.
You don't want to have that be a claim to fame, that you have this condition, like you're always going to be this victim, and then you join a support group to reinforce that you have this condition that gets you more solidified, like you said.
Yeah, not that you can't understand, not that you can't describe something. For instance, if you have asthma, okay, there's something, if you have asthma, but what it really is asthma, so instead of staying stuck with having asthma or the condition, we want to find out what is causing the restriction in the breathing or in the lungs, or the problem that it's causing. Just like I like to give people the example of, you remember when you were a teenager and you had pimples, you had acne. Most people as adults don't have acne. So are you continuing that label on yourself? I'm acne, I got a pimple head. It's like, no, you don't want to do that. You don't want to identify with it. It's kind of yucky. So the same thing with conditions. We see as we move through these things. You have a bad back. Okay, another one. Like, your back is not bad. It's like bad back, bad shoulder, bum knee. We got to really watch our language for how we talk about things. But we could say, yeah, the back is deteriorated, or it's in pain, or it's, I've got narrowing discs. We can get specific about what it is instead of owning the whole situation. You go, so you got narrowing of discs. Okay, and it causes pain. I'm just picking on one thing. It's like, well, let's figure out how to build up that disc material. What is it made out of? And how can we improve it? How can we get the pressure off? How can we get it adjusted? How can we get it, it's herniated or ruptured? Some of these words sound so scary. It's like, well, how do we get it unherniated and unruptured? What do we need to do? And some things you can restore 100%, other things you can't, but you can still make a lot of headway with whatever it is that you're dealing with. So I just wanted to get on to a little bit about labels and how we label things. So don't stay stuck on that. On the condition. Don't stay stuck on the label. Don't stay stuck on the condition. I like to use it as an identifier to get past something.
Look at it as a sentence. You're given a sentence by a physician, and then people own that.
Right, right. you know, you have such and or other. It's like even one of the big ones, you know, you have cancer. Oh my God, what is that? And why is that so? And it, you know, people act like it's contagious and that it's a real bad problem, and then they fail to love the area that needs the attention the most. So we'll get it more into you know, those another time, but I just really wanted to talk about the labels real quick and how that starts the whole mind connecting with the dis-ease, the discomfort, the acute, or the problem. You know, it's not that you can't say, you know, it's like you can't deny you have back pain. You can't go around saying I don't have back pain, but you don't have to identify it with, you know, my bad back, that kind of thing. You could say, you know, my back is really sore right now. It's hurting. Can you help me do such and or other? You know, where a lot of people will, you know, sometimes use things as excuses for one thing.
Yeah, I was going to say that people are the poor me victim, and they want this condition so they can use it to get attention, because the victim runs the show. Everybody tries to rescue the victim and do for the victim. And a lot of people like that, and they don't want that to change. It's like,
Yeah.
well, I'll have to do work then. I'll have to maybe clean house or mow the lawn or whatever that they get out of because of their condition.
Yep, that's something. Yep, a lot of people can fall into a lot of times. You know, not that you shouldn't help something out or you shouldn't deny something. You know, it's like if you've got a pain, you know, if your back hurts, you know, you don't have to get on with my bad back. You could say, you know, I've got, you know, this degeneration and I'm working on it, you know, but right now it hurts. So can you please help me do such and other, rather than, you know, we
Push me around in my wheelchair. Right?
Dramas, you know, these dramas. Okay, I'm not going to belabor that, but just don't identify with those things and then use it to find out root causes. Now I want to share my screen with you. Let's talk a little bit about minerals. I want to mention this and give you a little analogy here of sorry. I want to talk about the minerals because these are really important. Although there's vitamins and there's a lot and there's more than one mineral, but I wanted to just peg it as just like one thing for these organs and talk a little bit about this because minerals are so important. That is, I mean, you can get calories, you can get protein, you can get fats, you know, although two good fats, DHA is really, you know, hard to get in foods, but that's another topic. But anyway, you can still get a lot of things out of foods, but it's very difficult to get enough of all these minerals all the time. This is what I would say is probably one of the biggest problems that we have is getting people mineralized because it's so deficient in our food. That's really one of the main reasons that I eat organic food or want to eat organic food, not because only so much that it's clean or well raised. I mean, that's good, but the nutrition density is there. You know, if I have some celery, I want to know that that's organic celery and that's full of organic sodium because I'm going to use that. And I'm going to use that sodium to rebuild my joints or to rebuild, you know, help my bile or to help my stomach acid, you know, or the condition that I have. You know, it's a great alkalizer. And I want to know that that's full of it, full of that, you know, that organic sodium. If I have beets, I want, you know, good organic beet because, you know, they're kind of hard to eat. So I want to make it worth my while. You know, I like them pickled, or juiced, but I'm going to eat that beet and I want to know it's full of iron. You know, I want a lot in that beet. And if we look at chemical assays of a food grown organically and one that's not, and if we looked at how much iron is, say, like, let's take a beet, because certain vegetables or foods concentrate certain nutrients. So that's why I'm saying that way. So say a beet, it concentrates iron. It's going to concentrate in it in its root, the beet root itself, and then also in the leaves. So when I eat an organic beet, if I were to do a chemical analysis on it, that beet, let's just say it's 50 milligrams. And if I eat a non-organic beet, it might be 10. I'm just making numbers up, you know, because they're all a little bit different. It depends on where it's grown and all that. But the numbers are that difference. They're big. There's a lot of difference in those amounts. So eating the organic food for the mineral density, the density of these things. Another reason why we really like the supplement Tangy Tangerine. I have it here. One of my all-time favorites. You know, this is just loaded. He's got his in his jar. Hold it a little closer. There we go. Yours is
Oops,
got the
keying on
board.
it.
Yeah, you're keying in on it there.
There you go.
Tangy Tangerine's made by Longevity. And I think a couple times ago, we talked about the formulator, Dr. Joel Wallach, and you might want to check him out. He's just an amazing man. But what's unique about this formula is that it has all 60 minerals in it that the body needs. And it's mined in the United States. It's in, they have exclusive rights to a mine, a deep well or deep water mine in Utah. And I'm talking deep. A lot of these mines, try to schmooze you, and then they only go down a little bit, and then they say, oh, high minerals, but they don't have all those minerals. This is a deep mine, and they're able to get these minerals from once was plant sources, humic shale. That's where it comes from. So that's the basis of that formula. Then this one, the Tangy Tangerine, they put a lot of other components of nutrients in there. To me, it's like a complete multivitamin mineral. Just, it's missing the essential fats. DHA, EPA, but it's an amazing mineral source, and the company has other minerals, but the mineral source is specific because it's broad spectrum, and it's just amazing how little of certain minerals that the body needs, but it needs all of them. So this little chart here is just an overview of some of the bigger minerals that these organs of the body need. And I want to just go through this a little bit for you. The adrenals, they need copper, they need zinc. And it's interesting thing about copper, one of the main vitamins or nutrients that adrenals need is vitamin C. And the inner molecule of vitamin C is copper. It makes that inner molecule. So that's kind of interesting that it's both, the vitamin C has the copper as its essential mineral inside. So that's huge.
Also with zinc and vitamin C, those are essential to protect you from any viral condition. And when you're depleted in those, your adrenals will be whipped. You'll be in adrenal depletion, adrenal exhaustion, which means your immune system goes down. When your cortisol goes up, your immune function goes down. So as you get stressed out, because your adrenals don't have the minerals to function, to deal with the stress, you become susceptible to infections and things like that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So the copper is the main mineral in the vitamin C complex. And it's important to get the whole vitamin C copper. I really like food sources, all food source types of vitamin C, although a lot of them you'll find sodium ascorbate, which will work, but I like to get the whole vitamin C complex, which contains bioflavonoids. You've probably heard of that. In rutin, hesperidin, those are other parts of the vitamin C complex or family. So it's kind of like driving a car. If I gave you a steering wheel, it's not the same as giving you the car. So the more parts of the car, the better, especially the engine, the tires, the seats. It makes it all go over better. So very important to have that for the adrenal function, healthy adrenal function. The blood needs iron. That's one of the biggest parts of the blood. The middle part of the molecule is the heme, and the middle part of the heme is iron. So iron forms the basis of the red blood cells. And what's interesting is that iron is magnetic. It can have a magnetic quality. So as your blood is circulating, this creates part of the electromagnetic field of the human body. Which we're going to talk a little bit more about vibrational medicine and frequencies. So this is how this works.
I'd like to add that these minerals need to come from a plant-based source before your body is able to utilize them. So they have to go through photosynthesis and get charged with electrons, basically, from the photons of light hitting the plant, going through the chloroplast. Now these minerals are able to work in the body. And on the chat, I put the Cherry Min's product is an awesome plant-based mineral supplement. And they actually made it taste good, because minerals are really difficult. They're not palatable. And people don't want to take them because they don't taste good. But in this product, it's the same company makes the Tangy Tangerine. And they actually have all 60 of those minerals in both products. But the cherry mints is just the minerals. It's a liquid. And they're plant-based and they're really easy to assimilate.
I think that's the first product that I found from longevity was the cherry mints. And I'd say it almost kind of saved my life at that one time. I had really was into an adrenal exhaustion, and it was hard to find things there. You know, it's like when you get dizzy standing up, when you're just really tired, you've just burnt you've pushed too hard for too long, you burnt the candle at both ends. So the body will then say, I'm going to take you down. You got to rest. We're not going to continue like this. So finding that out and then finding those minerals was amazing. I mean, I felt it immediately. And from that, I found the tangy tangerine, and that was the original tangy tangerine. They've since made it higher at ORAC, which is oxygen radical absorptive capacity, which takes it's a free radical scavenger, so it's much higher in that, but it's amazing product.
You were talking about adrenal depletion that you were dealing with, and when your adrenals are overworked, when you're whipping the tired horse, the adrenals can't make all the hormones that they normally would or that they're capable of if they had the building blocks. So one of those is called aldosterone, and that affects the kidney's ability to concentrate urine. And so without aldosterone, you have to pee more often. People that are adrenal whipped, they have to pee all the time. And every time you pee, you lose not only water, but you lose electrolytes, which are minerals in the urine. And you get more depleted of your minerals than you would if you weren't adrenally challenged, because you'd be able to hold on to those minerals in the kidney. If you don't have the aldosterone, you just pass them out, and you do it more frequently. So it escalates, and it's difficult to turn that around. And especially magnesium, you lose that copious amounts. It's probably one of the easiest minerals to lose. Any challenge to the body, you start dumping magnesium. And so you got to replace this on a regular level, daily basis, and then protect the body from easily losing these minerals. Every time you sweat, you lose minerals. And if you don't replace them, they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not in the soil like they used to be. So food grown in that soil isn't going to have them. So you're going to have to supplement them, but you got to get them from a plant-based source again. So
minerals, that's what we used to years ago, like people say, back in the day, what day? Love that expression. We used to juice, you'd get the vegetables and put it through a juicer to extract the minerals in the liquid of the plant. You separated the good stuff from the fiber. Basically, you pulled the fiber off. So you can concentrate nutrients. So if I can concentrate those beets and get more iron, I can concentrate that sodium from that celery. I can concentrate things and drink that. That was, amazing. And then the plants also had structured water. The plant's got to have it organized, so the water in the plant, that's liquid, is structured. So that was just a really good source of juicing. That's why people would juice. And if you look at Dr. Norman Walker's books on raw fruits and vegetable juices, he talks about that. He breaks things down by condition. And he'll give you the condition high in certain minerals. Those certain minerals help those diseases. And Dr. Wallach, who formulated longevity, the Tangy Tangerine Company, he connected all those dots. He did a tremendous amount of research on, and connected mineral deficiencies with acute conditions in the body and chronic conditions. For instance, he found what was Jerry's kids? What did they have? Muscular dystrophy was a big selenium deficiency. So he got fired. Jerry Lewis, he told him about that, and then Jerry Lewis was all like, wow, really? That's amazing. And he went to the high ups in his company and told about that. And they said, oh, well, we don't need you no more. You can't be saying that.
That's when he stopped doing the telethons.
Yeah. So anyway, minerals, I want to go through this, but that's really, really important. And then, you know, again, the blood with the iron, it becoming, you know, as it flows, it's going through a magnetic field. So it creates an electromagnetic force and field. So the poor quality blood, your vitality would be a lot lower. So it's really important to have enough iron, enough of that in your blood, you know, to give you energy. Very, very important. You know, it's, I mean, other than just iron in the blood, iron, you know, strong Popeye, it creates that electromagnetic field that is constantly moving. And we're now in battling with all these other electromagnetic fields. Okay, the bowels, magnesium. You know, if you take extra magnesium, especially a form that you can't absorb very quickly, and magnesium's hard to absorb. It goes through the system quickly because it draws water to it. And by drawing a lot of water to it, it makes the bowels move. So if you take Epsom salts, drink it, you're going to be like spray pooping out in the morning. It draws the water and, you know, it really moves the bowels. So
especially magnesium citrate.
Yep. Yeah, so there's different forms of magnesium that you can absorb more slowly, you know, to help the heart, to help the brain, that won't go out and cause you to have very loose stools. But magnesium is big for the bowels. And magnesium, again, while it's here, is one of the most used minerals in the body. I mean, the body uses it for hundreds of enzyme reactions. It uses it to relax, you know, because we're all being overstimulated with our environment. So we really need enough magnesium to relax the body, to relax everything. So Epsom salt baths are one thing to keep around. Bones and teeth, I want to put that away. Okay, so bones and teeth, there's a few things that you really need for healthy bones and teeth. And then teeth, and specifically, you know, calcium, phosphorus, and boron. You think, oh, teeth and bones, hard material. Calcium is hard, but it needs the right mix of calcium and phosphorus, because the phosphorus helps to keep the calcium where it needs to be, keeps it hard in hard spaces. And then the boron and the fluoride are micro minerals that help keep the bone in its matrix. So very, very important. We'll have to show a book on tissue diagnosis, tongue diagnosis, looking at the color of skin and how skin is to, I can show you calcium and phosphorus deficiencies in people. You can look at how translucent parts of their skin are. It's very fascinating. I don't know why I have this window here. It's not in your way, but okay. Brain and nerve needs phosphorus. The brain needs a lot more phosphorus. And like, think, where's phosphorus? Where does that come from? That mainly comes from your grains. You know, getting a small amount of grains in the diet helps put phosphorus in there.
That's the spark that lights the fire.
Right. And it's interesting, when you study these things, you know, you can see that we really need to eat a broad spectrum of a lot of foods, and that we move through these foods at different times of the year. Sometime we'll talk about the embryo and how it develops, you know, what mom needs to eat throughout the year and how different ways the baby forms. Pretty fascinating. Okay, so the heart minerals need, you know, potassium and magnesium, big time. You know, people need to eat, you know, where do you get potassium? That's mainly from your fruits. You know, fruits are high, and some vegetables are high in that. And then magnesium. Magnesium, again, and back to it, it's a hard mineral to get in. Fish and seafood are probably some of the highest sources of magnesium, but then all of your greens, because it's the major molecule of chlorophyll. If we looked at the molecule of chlorophyll, the the element in there is magnesium. So we got to eat our greens. You know, we got to eat spinach, lettuce, collards, kale. But still, if you ate a whole plate full of kale, big thing, kale juice, you're still really hard to get in enough magnesium. It's tough to get that much in. So we almost have to supplement, because we don't get enough of those sources, and we don't eat enough things from the sea, which is high in all those minerals, very, very high.
Don't get in the ocean and absorb through the skin transdermally. That's what brine is in seawater, is magnesium. That's when you get out of water, you feel a little layer on your skin. That's the magnesium.
That little sticky feeling.
Uh-huh.
I have mine. I'm drinking my tangy tangerine, but I've got spirulina in it. I call it swamp juice. That makes it kind of brown. But theirs gets, you know, the key to sometimes drinking things is to put something in it so you're always getting something. If you have water, I like to tell people what we have that's called the mineral mix. If you put in your good water, you can put a pinch of baking soda and a pinch of sea salt, a good kind of salt like Himalayan salt or Redmond's real salt, because that has all the minerals. And again, it's the baking soda, the Arm & Hammer. That's not the problem. It's the baking powder that sometimes has aluminum in it. But the baking soda is sodium bicarbonate, which helps bring in minerals. So that will, Bobby was talking about earlier, how the aldosterone and you peeing off minerals. You drink, oh, I drink water and I pee all the time. You're not holding on to those minerals. So putting a pinch of salt and a pinch of baking soda in your water helps that. All right. Brain, nerve, heart. Okay, back to that. So kidney needs a good balanced chloride. And one of the few places we can get chloride, because the kidney's got this pump that it has to do. It has to filter. It's a big filtering organ. And chloride comes from salt. Sodium chloride. You know, we need certain nutrients. Chloride is also a much needed mineral to help keep you flexible. If you look at, say, the Japanese people who eat a lot of things from the sea, I mean, it's surrounded by water. They eat a lot of fish, a lot of seaweed. They are very flexible people. I mean, they're, you know, they're gymnasts and, you know, they're wiry, they're small, they can move around. Now, take that, compare somebody like, say, a German. Germans are not very flexible, you know, just to take the typical person that's grown up there, you know, their bodies are more stout, you know, they don't get that enough of that chlorine from their diet. They eat different. They're eating way different types of food, so their bodies are way different. Just interesting, the different minerals and on the planet and how people are. All right, liver, iron and sulfur. The liver, you know, is a big red filtration station.
Plant.
Yeah, a treat water. What did you call it? A toxin.
Sewage treatment plant.
Sewage treatment plant, right? So
it disinfects the gut, the intestines. That's its main job. That's where the blood, the hepatic blood from the intestines, when you absorb your nutrients into the blood, it goes to the liver first before it goes out to the rest of the body.
So if you ever,
protective second line of defense, things entering the body.
So the liver, if you look at a healthy liver, if you know, either see one, you know, like in a chicken, if you're, you know, in the giblets part, or if you have a thing of livers, they should be red. I mean, red, because it's, you know, the blood is going through it, it's cleaning it, and it's a good source of B vitamins. It's a good source of iron. You know, people that are low on that do really good eating, you know, eating liver or having desiccated liver. But it's also good, you know, another mineral that helps the liver is sulfur. And anytime the liver is doing liver detoxification, sulfur and magnesium are huge, especially sulfur. That's why people take MSM. One of the things, MSM, methyl sulfol, I can't remember the whole word, not that long word, MSM. So it helps the liver to do its part of its phase 2 detoxification. One of the big minerals for that. All right, lungs, silica. Let's go with lungs, hair, and nails. This is, you know, the hair is just, you know, it's mainly extra protein, but then it's got a mineral matrix and a lot more silica. Skin as well, but and nails and the lungs, those are tissues that use a lot more silica. And this is also a hard mineral to find. I would say, I was trying to think of the herb, horsetail. You know,
right.
Yeah, is for that. So that also helps to strengthen, you know, the bone as well, silica as well as the nails, which are coverings, you know, for the body, and then silica for the lungs. The lungs are a weird tissue. It's soft, but it has to have some kind of a structure to it as well. to be able to move the blood and then the air through the alveoli. Muscles, you know, like we talked about the heart, it needs potassium. Muscles, you know, the heart is a muscle, so it needs that because it has to help exhaust it. You know, if you have muscle contractions, so one of the big muscle minerals is potassium, and that's, you'll find a lot in a lot of your energy drinks, Gatorade. You know, they want to replace the potassium that's being sweat up, you know, from the lactic acid from the muscles.
So what makes muscles contract? Calcium. What makes them relax? Magnesium. So you need calcium, magnesium, and potassium. Right.
Pituitary, I thought I put that one on there. And most of the organs in the brain, you know, as part of the brain, needs, again, the phosphorus, which is a spark. And, you know, though that's where a lot of that electrochemical energy is happening in the brain. You know, a lot of that activity is happening in the brain. So that has to have that phosphorus for that spark.
It's a lot of mitochondria.
Absolutely. And then the skin, yeah, silica as well, and then sulfur. Sulfur is huge for the skin. You know, if you want healthy skin, you need to eat your eggs. You need to eat things with sulfur in them, your cruciferous vegetables, to help, you know, your skin. And your skin has to be, you know, it's your first line of defense against the outer world. You know, you got to have a good skin. You don't want it too thin, papery. You don't want it too thick and hard and callous. You know, your skin has to be able to breathe, to vent out. It has to sweat. It has, you know, it's a barrier. It has to keep you inside of it and everything else outside of it. So it's a really important organ. The spleen, copper and chloride. The spleen scrubs the blood, and it's just one of those weird organs, you know, and it's also part of the immune system that needs these oddball minerals. So we have copper, you know, which we said before is, you know, the main part of the vitamin C family. So if it's scrubbing the blood, you know, it's kind of needs a different mineral charge to do that. And then the stomach, sodium and chloride, you know, again, salt, but the biggest one here, sodium. The stomach needs a lot of sodium because it's constantly, you know, it creates acid, and the acid has to break down the food. So acid is acid, and it will burn unless it has a mucus layer, you know, in the body. So the stomach has to create this mucus, so it doesn't, you know, the acids that it's digesting doesn't burn a hole through it. That's what happens when we get, what am I thinking of?
Ulcers.
Thank you. Ulcers, you know, a different place. Sometimes it's lesions, stomach lesions, or sometimes a full-blown, you know, an ulcer, ulcerative condition. Mostly they're from acid from the stomach not being able to break down food normally. So if it can't do that, it ferments the food, and then you get splashing going up the esophagus and things not digesting. If you
don't have enough calcium, chloride, and zinc,
there's your chloride,
to make hydrochloric acid, then you'll have things like Helicobacter pylori able to survive and create these ulcerations. And it's actually the acids of fermentation that cause the damage. It's not hydrochloric acid like most people think, including medical doctors. So
right.
It's not enough hydrochloric acid causing fermentative indigestion and acids of fermentation.
Right. So I forgot to put that one on. I'm glad you mentioned it.
Calcium, chloride, and zinc. Yeah.
Let me go ahead and put the calcium in there. Let me just, the sodium, the stomach needs to make its lining as that acid is doing its thing. It's digesting the food. The chloride, calcium, and zinc and calcium are all needed to make the digestive juices themselves. So if you are low in those, then you don't make enough of the actual digestive juices to digest the food properly. And if the food can't be digested properly, it has to ferment. And that's when we get into problems. So instead of digesting, it's fermenting. All right, so this is really important to keep in the body. And then the last body organ I want to mention, there's others, but these are some of the main ones, is the thyroid, and almost everyone has a thyroid condition, because we don't have enough iodine and selenium. Years ago they added iodine to salt. Now they've taken it out. If you're eating regular salt, it doesn't even have iodine in it. So it's really important to get.
They found when they put iodine in salt, the IQ went up, so they removed it.
Oh no!
And the IQ went down markedly as a
So
result. They put brominated compounds in, other halogens, the other bad halogens.
So we need iodine. It's hard to get, and it's hard to get even a good supplemental form. The best one that I found right now is off of InfoWars store. Alex Jones sells it, and I like it's called Survival Shield X2 and Survival Shield X3. 2 different forms. Sometimes people do better with one than the other. The difference, sometimes the 2 is a little bit more, yeah, there you go, InfoWars. He's got his InfoWars mask on.
Infowars.com.
Infowars.com. So they have a good iodine. The X2 is a bit more strong, is a bit bigger formula, and the X3 is more the nascent, just the nascent iodine.
It has the potassium iodide with it.
Yeah. And sometimes iodine can be stimulating while you're getting other parts of your body in balance, and sometimes people react a little bit to it. It stimulates them, but normally it's fine. People do really well when they start feeding the thyroid, giving it iodine. Because again, we're not eating enough fish and seaweed, and especially people that live inland don't get enough of that. And then selenium, that's part of that molecule of, the T3, T4 that you've heard that the thyroid makes. Those 2 nutrients, iodine and selenium, are part of that molecule.
The enzyme that changes T4 to T3, thyroid peroxidase, is a selenium-dependent enzyme. The thyroid produces T4 and has to cleave off one of those to make T3. That enzyme that does that needs selenium. So T3 is 10 or more times active in the cells than T4. So if you don't have enough selenium, you can't convert T4 to T3, you'll be sluggish. You won't have the T3 ability to make it.
So we need, all of these organs need a lot of others. These are just some of the main ones in these that I picked for you to start getting your head around that and seeing how important minerals are and why they are how they are. So I'll attach that. All right, I'm going to stop my share and go to you, Bobby.
Okay.
Let's see, I think somebody might have been in here.
Okay, I'm getting an echo from you.
And all of a sudden.
Okay, we're going to go back to where we left off.
Uh-oh. Echo sounds weird.
Maybe turn your volume down. Is that better? I can still hear you.
Check, check. No, it's not me. Let's see, it just happened, didn't it?
You stop the share.
Let's see, I had a microphone. I thought somebody might have been on.
Okay, that's what it is.
There it is. I got it.
There, she's the culprit.
Okay.
Okay, back to screen sharing.
You go. We have found it, so.
Right, we were talking about high frequency voltage transients on power lines, and they come in through, it's called dirty electricity. It comes in through the neutral line into our homes, into all the wiring, and all the circuits in your home or where you work or whatever. And you got another hot mic. Did you get it?
Rosalie, you got to unmute your mic, or I unmuted you again. All right.
You mute her.
Yeah, I muted her. She unmuted herself. Okay.
So these high voltage transients exist everywhere on electric power wiring, both inside and outside of buildings. And it's caused by an interruption of electrical current flow. And these should not be present on normal 60 hertz sine waves used in power distribution. And years ago, before digital electronics were introduced, we had a nice clean sine wave that would fed our homes and our industry and stuff. But the digital switching amplifiers and things like those charging power supplies, those black, we call them wall warts, you plug into power to power different devices. Those are digital power supplies, and they put out really high frequencies that ride on the 60 hertz sine wave. And then those bleed off into the neutral, and if they're over a certain frequency. And they cause stress on the body. They interfere with our normal nervous system functioning. So this is a problem. Electric fields such as those emitted by power lines, cell phones, cell towers, and home appliances, including television, have frequencies between 2 and 100,000 hertz in the radio frequency range and can have profound biological effects. These fields are potentially present on all wires carrying electricity and are an important component of ground currents, which return to the substation, especially in rural areas. They go actually through the ground back to the substation. So we're in the midst of an invisible and silent plague of pandemic proportions that has been woven into our everyday lives. Dirty electricity is in virtually every building, whether it's our homes, schools, workplaces, or hospitals. These fields are potentially present on all wires. Again.
That's crazy.
Energy efficient appliances and equipment are amongst the culprits that create dirty electricity. The energy efficient smart appliances especially actually transmit microwaves into your environment, and then smart meter picks this up, sends that data back to the power company. We talked about that before, I think. Many houses with solar panels have very high levels of dirty electricity from the inverters that are changing the DC into AC. Wind turbines can also generate dirty electricity, which is then transferred along the grid if you have a grid share setup. So most people, even if exposed to levels and wavelengths that are literally killing them, remain unaware. This helps explain why the professional and office workers like school teachers have high cancer incidence rates. This explains why indoor workers have higher malignant melanoma rates, and why melanoma in general can occur in parts of the body that are never exposed to sunlight. Also explains why melanoma rates are increasing while the amount of sunshine reaching the earth is either stable or even decreasing due to air pollution like chemtrails and things. So melanoma caused from the blue light, artificial light. And you can even get it in your eyes from staring at blue screens like everybody's doing here now. If you don't have a blue filter app on your computer, then you're really harming your body. You're destroying all your DHA, destroying your dopamine, your melatonin, and if you actually made it by being outside in the morning, but people are unaware of all this. Even when they do experience palpable sensations, the cause simply doesn't occur to them, to what it's coming from. Everyone living in areas of the world with electricity is being negatively affected. It's only a question of to what degree. Electric workers and their children have higher risk of brain tumors. The incidence of childhood leukemia is higher in children who live near power lines that carry high voltage. Dr. Sam Milham in 1982 was the first to link workers' exposure to EMFs with higher rates of leukemia. Lloyd Morgan, a brain tumor survivor and director of the Central Brain Tumor Registry of the United States, introduced into the U.S. Congress that the Benign Brain Tumor Registries Amendment Act that became law in 2002. Along with breast cancer, leukemia, and diseases of the central nervous system, brain tumors are among the diseases that are more prominent in this health issue. You look at all the kids with their cell phones now, stuff, their tablets, they're holding them close to their face, falling asleep on them or whatever. Power line exposure has also been associated with an increased incidence of suicide. Again, when you destroy your dopamine, you feel bad, you get depressed, and increases your rate of the incidence of suicide and homicide, actually. Extreme low frequencies act as a cancer promoter. The extreme low frequency fields interact with the cell membrane and can affect hormones, calcium exchange, and tissue growth. Extreme low frequencies suppress the production of melatonin, a cancer inhibitor. People think of melatonin as the nighttime sleep hormone, but actually melatonin is important for controlling your engines of your cells, your mitochondria, totally controlled by melatonin. It's a potent antioxidant and a cancer inhibitor. And you make this in the morning if you're out without any glasses or contact lenses, getting ultraviolet A into your eye directly, which doesn't show up till about 10 o'clock.
You need to go take a coffee break at 10 o'clock. A light break.
Sunshine break.
Sunshine break. 10, 15, 20 minutes, however long you can.
Electromagnetic fields can be generated by spinning magnets, which is what steel-belted radial rotating tires are. That layer of steel rotating is creating a magnetic field. You got 4 of them around you in your car, in addition to all the other fields. A blender from 6 inches away emits between 30 and 100 milligauss. An electric can opener 6 inches away emits between 500 and 1500 milligauss. Hair dryer 6 inches away emits between 1 and 700 milligauss, and a ceiling fan 12 inches away emits between 3 and 50 milligauss. So these fields are all over the place in our everyday life, and we don't think about it. Some sources maintain that even 2 milligauss is enough to disrupt a person's biological function, and the maximum emission a person can safely absorb is only 1 milligauss. Cumulative damage may result from subtle chronic exposures. Such electric fields form around any electric charge, according to numerous authorities, including those within your cells. There are an enormous number of studies showing that RF radiofrequency microwave radiation to be harmful to human health. There's tons of studies over the last 8 decades showing permanent DNA damage.
So that would be the ability of the cell to reproduce itself. It doesn't necessarily mean having children.
Right. And then it's the mitochondrial DNA that's really important. The mitochondrial DNA is the software that runs the nuclear DNA in our cells. And nobody's paying attention to that. That's what's being down-regulated by these fields and by artificial light. So in 1968, President Johnson, in his State of the Union address, promised to protect the American people from the electromagnetic field radiation emitted by TV sets and other electronic equipment. He subsequently signed into law the Radiation Control for Health and Safety Act. That was in 1968. Look at all the devices that have been introduced since then. We didn't have the microwaves and stuff back then. In 1971, President Nixon's own radio management advisory panel warned him that the nation's entire population might be at risk, especially if future generations are considered. In 1995, President Clinton released a memorandum stating transmitter masts should not be sited on schools or near residential areas. And now they're around almost every school, and they're putting the Wi-Fi, powerful Wi-Fi in all the schools. And during this lockdown, there were several reports of them putting 5G transmitters in the light poles in the parking lots of schools. So when the kids go back to school, they're going to be in these intense fields, probably in addition to what's already there. And then that's going to weaken your immune system. And then they've been suspected that their immune systems are weak from that. They're going to go back into these fields and they're going to get sick and they're going to go, oh, it's a second wave relapse or something.
Positive planning.
In 2010, U.S. President Obama's own cancer advisory panel identified the risk to children and adolescents from wireless radiation as the most pressing problem. Thousands of studies link low-level wireless radio frequency radiation exposures to a long list of adverse biological effects, including DNA single and double strand breaks, oxidative damage, disruption of cell metabolism, increased blood-brain barrier permeability, melatonin reduction, disruption to brain glucose metabolism, generation of stress proteins.
Oh my.
Electromagnetic field radiation is emitted by all wireless products and devices, but none more so than the insidious smart meter, particularly when they are operational on what electric utilities call meshed grid networks. These are different networks that they set up like in neighborhoods, and they all report back to one, and then that sends all the data out. That might be your house, and this usually happens at night. You get these big transients and stuff. It's really ludicrous. The smart meter RF emissions constitute an all-new bizarre pattern, unlike the pattern of emissions from your cell phone or any other RF emitting device. To date, there have been no studies published on the effects of smart meter radiation on plants, animals, or humans. Some research indicates that pulse radiation induces a greater biological effect than constant radiation. However, based on countless first-hand reports, it's clear that some people are vulnerable to serious ill effects. A smart meter is a device you cannot turn off or move, so your exposure to the source of RF is out of your control. The rate and intensity of the RF radiation is not under your control either. We are coming to learn it's not under the utilities' control. That's why it's important to know where your breaker panel is, and usually the meter is on the other side of the wall outside from the breaker panel. Not always, but usually. And you don't want to have anything that you're going to spend a lot of time around, or you definitely want a bed or a baby's crib, or your office, or somewhere you're going to work all day on the other side of the wall from something like this, because you're going to be in that field all the time. Smart meters are unlike cell phones or Wi-Fi in their bizarre pattern of sharp spikes of radio frequency. At least 90% of the radio frequency emitted by the smart meters is not transmitting your electrical usage data, but is part of the mesh network talking to itself, and that includes a lot of redundant chatter between your meters and other meters. The figures for radio frequency exposure from RF transmitting power meters given by utilities are time average numbers, which hide the peak power of the smart meter and disguise the continuous nature of the pulses. So they'll average it out over 24 hours and say, oh, it's only this much, but when it is working, it's like off the scale, and you're being affected by that. And again, often at night when you're sleeping. Our government has never once seen fit to make it mandatory for industry to first prove by qualified non-industry scientists replicating real-life applications that the radiation emitted by wireless products and devices or toys is safe. Nor impose the precautionary principle, even though the World Health Organization stated in 2003 that there was sufficient evidence to justify its application for both extremely low frequency and radio frequency electromagnetic fields. Today, the government still appears to be more concerned with industrial growth than it is about protecting the health and safety of our population. And again, these devices emit, they transmit, they're wireless, they transmit and receive out of the bottom of them, which is, if you look at these kids with their tablets, right over their reproductive organs.
And their femurs, where they make red blood cells or white blood cells.
And yeah, all the blood cells.
Yeah.
With the ever extensive use of wireless technologies, nobody can avoid being exposed, because on top of the increased number of 5G transmitters, according to estimates, 10 to 20 billion connections will be part of the Internet of Things. All of these together can cause a substantial increase in the total long-term radio frequency electromagnetic field exposure to all inhabitants.
Let's pause there, Bobby, because we're getting close to being end, and then maybe just talk about that a little bit and talk about anything coming up in the chats. I think we had somebody talking about their kids going back to school tomorrow. You know, we're facing, you know, the kids going back to school. You know, I personally would think, I don't think the social distancing is a good idea. I think, you know, we've talked about this before with this all being a political move, you know, and I don't want to get into all that at the last few minutes, but, you know, our immune systems need exposure to things. You know, you can't live in a bubble. We have to have, you know, an ability for it to work. We saw a thing that George Carlin did years ago on germs. I think you should all check that out on YouTube. George Carlin germs. I think it was maybe just to Google that. Hate that, Google it. But anyway, he's really funny, and he's, you know, he's George Carlin, but he really gets some good points about your immune system and how, you know, if you don't expose it to things, it gets weak. You know, he says, you know, we grew up swimming in sewage, you know, we have strong immune systems. Yeah, I mean, that's taking it the other way. That's George Carlin, but it's very funny, a lot of the points that he makes. So, you know, what I worry more about is the Wi-Fi, the blue light, the tablets, that kind of stuff. You know, the environment is what I worry about more on that level than it is, you know, any germ or microbe. Your immune system, you know, is built to handle those things, and it needs to. We need to have the herd immunity. But, you know, is the school a worse environment than your home? Is your home safer? You know, do you have a smart meter, or are you good? You know, you got good lighting, you know, so those are the things that I would take in more with putting kids back to school and creating a better environment so they don't have more exposure to all this. You know, that's what I would protect kids more from as much as possible. You know, having a safe place so their nervous system isn't constantly bombarded with this, you know, with these electromagnetic energies that are harmful to us.
And the most important thing you can do, anybody can do for their health, is to get out and watch the rising sun, to start the neurohormone production that happens when you see the rising sun, and get away from that indoor lighting, get outside, be grounded, get a grounding sheet for everybody's bed so they're grounded all night. That's a third of your life. Get rid of the LED light bulbs, get blue filters for all your devices. Everything like that makes a huge difference, because when they go to school, they're not going to get that. So you got to create a safer oasis to where they can come in and recharge and recover from this bombardment of noxious influences on many levels in the public school system. So.
And then we have to start protecting ourselves. And last week's talk, we talked about shungite and how we can harmonize these electromagnetic fields, at least start to change the torsion field of how they work. And we mentioned a little bit about orgonite, and then these are some of the orgonite pocket protectors that we make. And we make them in different sacred geometric patterns. This one is all shungite. We also make some with toroid coils and crystals in them. These have aqua aura crystals. And these you carry in your pocket or you wear on you when you're in places that have electromagnetic fields, which is like everywhere. You can put on your computer, on your devices, have more of those. And if you check out our, Tuberose Healing YouTube channel and our tuberosehealing.com, we're just, getting the products linked up. There's a lot of information on it. We've been putting that on. Now we're getting the other side, the shopping cart and all that side set up, which we'll be able to have these on there to buy. But if you want any of these orgonite, you can just private message Bobby or I, and we can help you with that. And then also things like the tangy tangerine, where and how you can get this. It's just a great supplement, and then as well as some of the other things that we talk about. So hope that helps give you some idea on how important, how electrical we are, how we need to run it. We got to keep our batteries, our internal batteries, topped off with minerals, with water, with hydration, keeping ourselves hydrated, keeping those minerals in place, and warding off those electromagnetic fields and creating a safe haven in your own home as much as possible. Really having your desk where you sleep, you want, especially where you sleep, should be clean. You don't want a Wi-Fi router on, especially at night. You can shut it off. You don't want a cell phone on by your head. You don't want a clock radio on by your head. You don't.
If your kids are going back to
grounding
school,
sheet or something.
real quick, because we're running out of time. If your kids are going back to school, it's important that we get involved and go to the meetings and start to speak out and bring up these issues and start to stir up the alchemy. A lot of people aren't aware of these conditions, and then you can get involved on the legal level, and you can create a notice of liability form that you can submit to these people that are responsible for the health of your children being in these buildings.
Right.
Make them liable, make it cost them money. Then they'll start to listen, because they don't care about your health. They care about their pocketbook. So if you're interested, we can share information on that level, which you can do also. But we need to get off the couch. We need to get some skin in the game and get involved now. It's important. We're under attack. Our country is under attack. And we need to get active and not depend on one person to try to save us from this attack.
Information's out here, and we can share and spread this. Yeah, and it's really important that we do. We send whatever social media platform you're on. It's important to take information and share it and with as many people as you can, and we just got to keep it rolling so we can wake up critical mass and changes are happening. But I'm excited. Changes are happening. People are waking up more than ever. They've been asleep and their eyes are all blurry with mucus and almost mucus shut, but they're awake at least, So it's really important to do that and, keep a positive attitude, keep in a good space, work with your electromagnetic fields, reducing them, work with increasing your nutrition, and then just spreading that light, sharing that light from one person to the next. And this way we can make a better world. So thank you all for being here, for sharing. Please help us promote this, share this. People can private message us, or you can give them the link and check out our other videos on Tuberose Healing, and look forward to more fun stuff. So thank you all for coming, and we'll see you next week. Namaste.